up, we have French Hill, who's joined us this evening. He's going to talk about his campaign for a U.S. representative.
Thanks, Jason. Happy birthday. Let's give a hand for our chairman. Great job. It's good to be with you, and I appreciate the time. Hopefully I will not take all 20 minutes. We need to get home. But I want to make a few comments about the campaign. I visited with you in January, kind of gave you an update on the Pelosi show in Washington. It's crash diving into the dirt with the Joe Biden administration. We talked a little bit about that in January. And I'll talk about what I think the House will do if we win in November across the board, and even what we could do if we take the Senate back too. But first, I want to address some of the stuff I've heard out on the campaign trail as I go from county to county. And I've particularly enjoyed being up with our neighbors in Cleveland County, which has been added into the 2nd Congressional District. And it's been great to campaign in Greers Ferry and Heber Springs, get to know those good people that are companion counties to Van Buren County, Clinton, Fairfield Bay, and of course White County. So I've spent a lot of time up there this first quarter of the year. Here's what I'm hearing. Number one, hey Congressman, I hear you're for a vaccine database, HR 550. Untrue. It's not a vaccine database. HR 550 was written by one of the most conservative members of the House of Representatives, Dr. Larry Bouchon, a medical doctor from Indiana. What it does is it actually gives money to the state departments of health to protect the data. So it's not broken into for cyber protection. It's not a vaccine database. It has nothing to do with COVID-19 or collecting data and sharing that with anybody. It's actually the inverse. It's trying to secure our state departments of health. So that's the first thing I've heard, was that issue. Vaccine database. And my opponent in this primary is misleading voters by campaigning on that issue. What else have I heard on the campaign trail? I've heard that I'm not for a balanced budget. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard, but I hear it every week. In the House, the last time the House voted on a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution was in the spring of 2018. I was one of the people who got it called to the floor by working with the Republican leadership to make sure we had a vote on it. When was the last time the Congress ever voted on a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution? In the 1990s. The 1990s. Second part of that point. Have we ever even balanced the budget and voted on that on the House floor? Forget the amendment. The answer is yes. Who was on the committee that drafted it? I was. The Republican Study Committee is the only committee in Congress that's actually written a balanced budget and taken it to the House floor for a vote. Did it pass? No. But I have stood up for the 7 years I've served in the House for prioritizing spending, cutting the size of government, and shaping the world we live in. Because this country is built on the grassroots. This country is built here. This country is built on our school boards, on our city councils, on our quorum boards. That's where the people have the power. And so I've done my level best every day I've served in the House to reduce the power of the federal government, to divert that power back to the states, to give local people the ability to make change, because that's where you get to control what your kids are learning in school. That's where you control how much money is spent on a Christmas tree. Well, the old timers know that issue. So it's local, and so that's why I fight so hard to shrink the size of the federal government. So that's the second thing that I've heard. The third thing I've heard is that somehow I'm in cahoots with Nancy Pelosi to investigate January 6th. That I voted with her. to set up her fake committee to investigate January 6th. What are the facts there? I voted no on that effort. I voted no on the Pelosi committee, the fake committee that is attempting to investigate January 6th right now, in a very partisan way. And each time they brought a contempt resolution to the House floor, I voted no on that, trying to sanction people in that investigation, which I believe is not legal for them to do. Where are those people's due process? Just like everybody here is concerned about where are the people who were arrested due process. So what did I support about January 6th that's been so manipulated by my opponent? I voted a few days after that. I endorsed an equal bipartisan commission to find out why Speaker Pelosi left the Capitol undefended, with no coordination with the D.C. police and no coordination with the National Guard. Because what are the facts there? You heard about this yesterday in the news site. President Trump, at 3 p.m. on Sunday, before January 6th, authorized the National Guard to protect D.C. and the mall. Do you know why his authority ends where it ends? It ends at Capitol Hill. The executive branch does not control security at the U.S. Capitol. Only the legislative branch. Who is in charge of the legislative branch? Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Who ignored intelligence? Who ignored coordinating with the D.C. police? Who ignored calling out the National Guard early to protect your U.S. Capitol? Pelosi. So yeah, I want to get her on record. Will her fake committee ever learn anything about it? No, because guess what? When they voted to create the fake committee, guess what? They excluded all the phone logs, all the emails, and all the records of what? The Speaker's office. So that's the third thing I've heard out there on the campaign trail since I've been working the 8 counties of the 2nd Congressional District. So let me tell you what